Guten Kvittel. This is Gemara's Zevachim, Daf Lamid Beis. Although we're recording here on Aishan Rabba Baruch Hashem, this is the Daf for Isru Chag. So, Meretz Hashem, those who want to learn before Yantif, what a way to enter into Simchas Torah, being a few Daf ahead. So, we pick it up with a new Perek, the third Perek here in Mesechus Zevachim. We'd like once again to dedicate all the learning for as an incredible schos, Refuah Shalema, for Gavriel Simcha ben Miriam Ahuva, Psiyat de Shemaya, the incredible Kayach HaTorah, should bring Gavriel Simcha ben Miriam Ahuva a complete Refuah Shalema. Says the Mishnah, Kol Psulim Sheshachtu. All Psulim. Here, Psulim refers to the people. Sheshachtu, that did the shchita of a karban. What is the halacha? Shchitasan kshira. Why? Shashchita kshira bizarim. As we have learned already back on Chavav, shchita is kosher by a zar, by a non-kayin. Ubinashim, and by a woman. Uba-avadim, and by slaves. Ubitameim. Va'afilu b'kachi kachim, and even kachi kachim, meaning don't think it's only a lower level karban that is kosher in such a scenario. No, even kachi kachim, ubelvad, provided shelo yehu tameim noigin bibasar. Says the Mishnah, provided that those that are tamei do not touch the basar. As Rashi articulates, ubetimeim, betami sheretz kamar, she'ina betami kli, delav avatomo, oi betami meis, kun shabodai kremi shalkana v'shachat ba, aval v'sakin, loi sheut mitami sasakin v'sakin mitami esa basa. So Rashi really lays the framework for the din that we just said. Because we just said that one of the cases that we're talking about is a tamei. But the question is, if the tamei does the shchita, what should happen? It should make the basar, it should make the karban tamei. Says the Mishnah, no. So Rashi gave us numerous ways of having such a scenario, whether it's a tamei sheretz, whether it's that you don't actually touch the basar, whether it's a sakin aricha, etc. So you have to be careful not to touch the actual flesh. Lefikach, therefore, hein psulin b'machshava. Says the Mishnah, one who is pasul, who does the shchita, paislin b'machshava, could pasul it with machshava. Says Rashi again, Lefikach hein psulin, es karba b'machshava, im shachtu b'machshava, ayil v'ruyin la'avodah zu machshava asan machshava. Meaning, a direct extension of the Mishnah that if the person is basal, he's allowed to do the shchita. What is a direct extension? That his machshava has a din machshava. His machshava could passel up the karban just as he is able to do the shchita. As we turn over to Lamed Beis Amud Aleph, continues the Mishnah, the Kulan, and all of these people that we're discussing in the Mishnah, all of these people who are pasul, who are tamei, isha, and eved, etc. So first case of the Mishnah was what? Was the shchita. Says the Mishnah, furthermore, v'kulan, and all of them, shekiblu as adam, if they did the Kabbalah as adam, when? Chutz lizmanoi, or v'chutz limkaimoi. So im yesh dam hanefesh, if there still is dam hanefesh, meaning, what's dam hanefesh? Let's remind ourselves that the dam that is required for the Kabbalah, for the Zrika, etc., is the dam hanefesh, is the lifeblood, is the blood that gushes out. So if there's still some dam hanefesh left, then what's the halacha? Says the Mishnah, second line, Lamed Beis Amud Aleph, Yachzer HaKosher v'yikabel. Then someone who is kosher should go and do the Kabbalah. But again, if there is not, then it's going to be a problem. Kibel HaKosher v'nasan lepasul. Says the Mishnah, what about if the Kabbalah was done by one who's kosher, but then he gave it to someone who is pasul? Yachzer lekosher, then the kosher has to go and take it back. Kibel biyamina v'nasan lismailai. Again, so these are all cases that the Kabbalah was done at start appropriately, but then something else was done wrong. So Kibel biyamina, if he did a Kabbalah with his right hand, v'nasan lismailai, and put in his left hand, yachzer liyaminai, says the Mishnah, you have to return it back to your right hand. Kibel b'kli kaidesh and nasan l'kli chol. Again, yachzer l'kli kaidesh. Mishbach, says the Mishnah, what happens if the blood spills minakli ala ritzvah, from the kli onto the floor, v'asvai, and you gather it up, kosher. Nasnai al gabi kevesh, says the Mishnah. Now we go to the Kabbalah. The Zrika. After you accept the blood, you have to place the blood, you have to spritz the blood, you have to sprinkle the blood on the Mizbeach. So if you did the Nisanai, you place the blood al gabi kevesh on the ramp, which of course is not the right place to do the Zrika. Shaloi keneged ha-yisayid, or not opposite the Yisayid. Nasan and Asanisatin lamala lamata lamala and Vesanisanin lamala lamata. That which is supposed to be below the chot hasikr, you did above. That which is supposed to be above, you did below. Sadan lefnim bachotz and sadan bachotz befnim. Im yishtama nefesh yachzer hakosher v'yikabel. You could do it again, but again, if there's no dam nefesh, it's going to be a problem. So says the Gemara. Let's dive into the first case in the Mishnah. What was the first case? We could say almost the theme of the Mishnah was shchita being done by one that is possible. The Mishnah said, "Kol absulim sheshachtan ksherin." Anyone who's possible that did the shchita, it's kosher. Asks the Gemara, "Shachatoi." From the lashon of the Mishnah, it sounds like the evidin lechatz chalaloi. It's only a din b'diavad. V'raminu, I'll ask you a stira. V'shachat shchita bizar. Ksheira. The Brisa says that from the word Vishacha we learn out that a zar is allowed to do shchita. Shchita ksheira bizarim ubenashim, and with women, umeavadim, and with slaves, tameim, vavilu kache kachim, even kache kachim. So we see that it's even lechatzchila. Ayenai ela b'kayanim, or maybe he says the Brisa further, or maybe it's not sure. Maybe it's only if it's done by a kayin. Amrit, I'll explain to you. From where do we learn that it has to be done by a kayin? Mechlal shenemar, the pasuk says, "V'ato b'necho itzcha tishru as kunascham." You and your children should guard l'chol davar hamizbeach. So explains the Brisa Yachal. I would think af b'shchita. So maybe even the shchita has to be done by a kayin. Talmud Loimar, 6 lines to the white lines. V'shachat has been abakam le'Hashem v'krivu v'goymer mikabala v'alach, from the Kabbalah and onward. Misas kuna limit al shchita. So what's before the Kabbalah? Of course, that's the shchita. So it teaches shchita b'chol adam. The shchita is going to be kosher by any person. So says the Gemara, this Brisa is a stira to our Mishnah. Because our Mishnah sounded like shachat diavad in lechatchila. This Brisa is teaching us clearly, even lechatchila. Answers the Gemara, who adin really in reality, dafil lechatchila nami. Really, even lechatchila is going to be kosher. Misham the kabayil lemisni temeim. We want to list the case of temeim del lechatchila loy, that only dafka by a tamei is there did not to do lechatchila. Why? Gezeira, it's a decree. Shema yagoy bebalsar. Therefore, Tana, we learned sheshachtai. We learned sheshachtai, meaning that it's only a din bidi eved. But lamaisa, really, the other dinim in the Mishnah is even lechatchila, like the Brisa taught us. Says Gemara, wait, v'tamei. The Evet Shaper Dami. So you're telling me that the Mishnah wrote this Nusach, wrote this way because of the din of a Tameh that's only the Evet. Asks the Gemara, really? Is the din of a Tameh only b'di'evet? Excuse me. Is a Tameh b'di'evet kosher? V'raminu, on the first white line, v'seven v'shachat. Says the Torah, you do smicha, you do shchita. What do we learn? Ma smicha b'tayrin, just like the smicha is only by one who is tar or av shchita b'tayrin. So to the shchita, it's only by someone who is tar. So what do we see? We see that if a tamei does shchita, it's possible. Not like our Mishnah, that's kosher b'di'evet. Answers the Gemara midrabanan. Gemara answers that midrabanan, it has to be done l'chatzchila by one that is tar. But if a tamei person l'maisa does l'shchita b'di'evet, it's going to be kosher. But says the Gemara, why in the second white line? Ma'ishna smicha. What is different about smicha that has to be done by a tahar? Techsev lefnei Hashem. Pasuk says lefnei Hashem. Shchita nami yaksev lefnei Hashem. So ask the Gemara, why is there a chilik? Why is the shchita l'maiser saying it's only din l'chatzchila not b'di'eved? Answers Gemara Avshad David second arucha v'shachat. The reason is because you could do the shchita with someone who's tummy with a long knife, and you're still standing outside the Beis Hamikdash. So the Marway Srichanami Avshad Demayel Yadei V'Samech. You could put your hands inside the chutzner and do the smicha, meaning you could do the smicha even without you actually being inside the Beis Hamikdash. Responds the Gemara, 2 lines at the bottom. Even just putting your hands in is considered like you went into the Beis Hamikdash. Says Mamish Vakat. Samach v'shachat, says the Torah. What do we learn out from there? Says Rav Chisda mashchita b'tayrin avsmicha b'tayrin. Ma'ishrat shchita. Why is shchita different? D'chsev l'nei Hashem. Says the Gemara as we turn over to Talmud Beis and Beis. What do you mean? If the drush is from l'nei Hashem, then smicha nami. Asks the Gemara when it comes to smicha as well. Ksiv it says l'nei Hashem. Answers the Gemara. After the me'al yadei v'samech. Shchita nami after the second arucha v'shachet. Hamani Rav Shimon Atimani Titania v'shachet has been avak l'nei Hashem. V'lo yasheichei l'nei Hashem. Shimon Atimani Yomer no. Minayin sheyu yadav shal sheichei l'nei ben anishchat. Hamloim v'shachet is avak l'nei Hashem. Sheichet is avakar yeh l'nei Hashem. That the sheichet has to be l'nei Hashem, and that's why we have to be machalik in the two cases. Says the Gemara, Amar Ula. We're 10 lines down. The first line is L'nei Hashem. As Ula takes a deep dive into the din of Via B'mix's partial entry into the Beis Hamikdash. Amar Ula Amrei Shlakish Tamei Shech L'Zedul Lefnim Loike. Someone who's Tamei puts his hand inside the Beis Hamikdash, he gets Malkush. And Amar Chol Kodesh Le'Sika V'Gaimer. Malkush will be able to Negiah, so we make a Hekish. That what? Man Negiah b'mixas is Shema Negiah. So to have Bia b'mixas is Shema Bia. And that's what we learned the din that we just said, that even putting part of your body in when it's Tameh is going to be a problem, and therefore the Bryce is teaching us that there will be Malchus. Asks the Gemara, Yisi Rav Yehoshia Le'ula. If the 8th day of one Sarash, 8th day of the Tahira process falls out on Erev Pesach. And he also sees carry that day. V'tavel, he goes to the mikvah. Amru chachamim afal pi she'ein tful yoim achar nechnas. Even though in general tful yoim cannot go up to Arabayis, zeh nechnas. This one could go to bring the carbon Pesach. Why? Motav yovo yasei shish bakares yitchasei she'in bakares. Because we would like the asei she'in bakares to push off the asei she'yesh bakares. Rav Yechanan Amar, no. Tvar Torah afilu asei ein boi shenemar v'yamri yeshava b'kal Yehuda v'Yushlayim b'beis Hashem and the Chazar Chadasha. My Chazar Chadasha. Amar Rav Yechanan chedshbo dvarim harbe va'amru tzvul yoyim alikonis l'machaneh leviyah. That tzvul yoyim can't come to machaneh leviyah. So now circles back around. The Gemara asks, "V'amr b'yah v'miksa shema b'yah hechem al yadei." How can you stick in your hand? Says the Gemara, you didn't. B'v'hainas, you only stuck in your thumb. Aidi asay sheish v'karisu. Says the Gemara, I don't understand. They both have karis. Amrlei says Ula mitunach shani mitzayra mitunach shiny mitzayra is different. Why? Hov huta l'tzaratai hutar le'kir yav That's why the mitzvah is going to be different. Rav Yosef Kesavra Ula Ruban Zavin Vinasin Tame. Ula was of the opinion that if Roiv of the Tzibor were Zavin Erev Pesach, then what? V'nasa Tamei Meis, and they then became Tamei Meis. The halacha is you still bring the Karban Pesach. Hoyel v'hochu l'tzmasan, hochu l'zivasan. Once the Tuma was wiped away, once the tire was chal for one, it's going to be chal for the other one. Amrei Abaye, why? Mi dami. Tuma ishtarya, zivala ishtarya. What's going on over here? So Amrei Damachi Kamar, my Ruban Tamei Mesim, Nasa Zavim, Hoyavachu l'tzmasan, hochu l'zivasan. That's the reason, but not if you actually in the other cases. Amrlei in Bakatil Dami Mitzera Latera Hu Hail Vishtri Ishtri Tami Dachuyahi Lahayidchi. No. You know what? We're gonna have to pull back. We'll come back. We'll stop from Rav Yosef's Torah to Rav Amrlei in. Rav Yosef's back to Abaya. That's what I meant. I'll pick it up from there. B'siyata Dishmaya.